Okay, welcome to part 2 where we are going to now take these gears and we are going to attach them or create a base for them to sit in for our keychain. Okay, so my menu up top is still left off where I ended the last video, so I've got my tools ribbon activated. So I want to go back over to solid. So maybe some of you already have that activated and that's fine. But I need, since I'm kind of building top down here, I started with the assembly and then I added 2 components here. I added this first spur gear and then I added the second spur gear, and all I'm doing is I'm just turning them on, turning them off, the visibility, that's all I'm doing. So I want to add another component. Remember, these are components. When you see this little shape here, this little object, that means it's a component. If I drop this arrow down, you'll see that every component is made up of bodies. In this case, it's one body that makes this spur gear component. Same thing with this one. It's got one body, it makes this component. So just something to keep in mind. So I'm going to come up here to where it says assemble, and you'll see this little button that says new component. I want to make a new component. What do I want to call it? Let's call it housing, because it kind of houses the gears. Okay. I'm going to click OK, and right away you'll see my housing appears. These kind of gray out because this little button, this little radio button, it's now activating the housing. You'll see that I can move that radio button. If I want to activate the entire assembly, I can turn that button on. If I want to activate this gear, and I want to, or this gear rather, and I want to work on that gear. So that's what these little radio buttons do. Is if you want to work on that component, it grays everything else out. So that's why those went to a different shade, just to kind of give you that information. But right now I'm working on the housing, but I need to have a sketch or a surface to draw on. So I'm going to click New Sketch, and then I'm going to pick the top surface of this this gear. So I'm just going to kind of touch the top surface of the gear, just like that. Anytime this comes up, some components have been moved, we always capture position. Okay, always capture position. So it's going to give me a top view, and what I want to do is I want to draw 2 big circles at the same center point as these 2 gears. So I could draw a circle, and I could touch this center point because it's already on the origin. Notice how I can snap to this center point. Let's draw this circle, and as I'm drawing it, I could type in, I don't know, 1.4, and press enter. Okay. But if I try to draw a circle, I can't snap on this one. I'm going to press escape. That's because I have to create and project. So you'll see what I just did. I went to create, project. I have to, almost like creating a shadow, I have to project and click on this circle. Okay, and then click OK. Now I have geometry on my sketch from that other part. So now I have a center point that I can snap to. And now I can drag it out. And as I'm dragging it out, I think I'm going to go with 0.8 and press enter. And then now I've got 2 circles. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to go to my line command, and then I'm going to draw a line, and just watch where I draw it. I'm going to draw a very long line that is beyond the 2 circles. When I say that, I mean, and I'm going to press escape. Notice how I started it over here and I ended over there. You'll see why in a second. Maybe watch me before you do this. You'll see why I did that. Because my next step is going to be to use this under constraints, my tangent button. When I click tangent, I can touch the line and touch the circle, and it brings that line to be tangent to the circle, and then I'm going to do the same thing with this part of the circle and this part of the line, and it just creates a tangent point. Same thing down here, tan, 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 tan. And the reason why I did this was because I'm going to come up to my modify menu and I'm going to use this little scissors tool. It's called trim. And with trim, once it's activated, every line I click, if it's intersecting something else, like this is tangent to the circle, if I click on the extra stuff, it'll go away. So like this line after the point of tangency is just going to delete. This line after the point of tangency here. And if you want to make your life easier, you might want to trim the stuff on the inside as well. It'll just make extruding easier. Okay, once you've got a nice shape like I have, and you've trimmed all the stuff on the inside, you don't have to worry about this line. I mean, if you want to get rid of it, you can. Finish your sketch and go to your isometric view. And what you're going to do is you're going to extrude and you're going to pick the whole solid. So here's where sometimes it's going to see the gear shape. Make sure you pick all the profiles so it's a solid blue shape, and then you're going to drag it out only, I would say, 0.1 inches. A nice thin wall, just like that, 0.1 inches, and then hit OK. And there you go. So now we have like a platform for it to sit on. Okay. So now that we have the housing started, and we're not done yet, it's just kind of started, I'm going to go back up and I'm going to activate my assembly. And let's get these gears to rotate. Let's get them to move around a little bit. Okay, so don't grab them yet. Let's say you accidentally do like I just did. Oops, hit undo and bring it back, okay? All right, so I want this gear to stay on this platform and rotate exactly where it is. So in order to do that, I have to create a joint. So I'm going to go up to assemble. And since I want the joint to be exactly where I built the part on this platform, I'm going to use as built joint. So the as built joint requires me to pick two parts, the component and then the other component it was built on. So I picked the gear and then the plate. So those are my two selections. All right. And then you need to pick the type of motion you're looking for. In this case, there's a lot of things you can do, but in this case, it's a revolute, which is spinning. And it wants to know what axis to spin around. So I'm going to kind of highlight that center reference, and sure enough, you'll see it start to spin. Okay? And then hit OK. Now if I grab that gear, you'll see that everything moves. Uh-oh, undo. You don't want to do that yet, okay? That's a problem. This base, this housing, I keep calling it a base, this housing is not supposed to move. So right now, stop what you're doing, right-click on the housing and ground it. Grounding it means it cannot move in any direction or rotation. Ground it. Okay? Now that it's grounded, if you grab that gear, all of a sudden, you can move it. But undo, because we want to leave those gear teeth exactly in the position that we originally rotated it. So if you want to play around with it and rotate it, go ahead, but keep undoing to keep that position that you originally created. Do the same thing with the other gear. We're going to go ahead and assemble as built joint. Pick the gear, pick the plate, make sure it's on revolute, and for the position, pick the center. And you'll see it. Preview the rotation. Click OK. All right. Now again, you could test it and see if it works, and then undo to make sure it goes back to the correct orientation. Now, what we want to do is we want to get these to rotate with relationship to one another. Now, Fusion does allow us to do contact sets to where the teeth can actually sense when they touch each other. The problem with that is it takes a whole lot of processing power of your computers. And since you're on iPads, I'd rather not do that. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to do a motion link. It's a little bit of it's a kind of a cheating way of doing it, but it still gets the job done. So we're going to go ahead and go to, under Assemble, a motion link, and it's going to ask us to pick 2 joints. And you can see those joints here and here, so pick them, the first joint and the second joint. When you look at them, it doesn't make sense because they're going the opposite directions. So if you kind of go into this window, you can lie to it, and you can put a negative number in front of one of the gears. And then according to your IMA calculations and your gear ratios, since you know that one gear has 12 teeth and another gear has 24 teeth, that should tell you that the larger gear is only going to rotate at half the speed. I don't remember which angle was which when I picked them, so I'm just going to trial and error. So I'm just going to say 180 degrees on one in the negative direction. What just happened there? I don't know what just happened. Let's do this. Let's go negative 360, and let's go positive 180. Okay. I'm thinking that these need to go in the same direction. Let me stop my animation and then hit play. Oh, I know what the problem is. I'm going to hit OK. I think it's because I hit this enable contact sets. I need to disable those. Go to my motion link. All right, let me try something. Okay, looks like I had my 360 and 180 mixed up. I think that was my problem. Okay, so once you animate it, which really the animation isn't what I'm interested in, that's just making sure you've got them in the right place. It depends on what order you click in, so you just got to play with this. But when you hit OK, as long as the motion link is there, if you grab a gear and you just start turning it, you'll see that now they rotate with one another. Okay? So that is constraining your gears and creating the base for your housing, rather. Okay? So that should take care of most issues with that. Now, from here, now we can activate our housing. Notice how the other stuff kind of grays out, and then we can add to our housing. Add an axle, add an enclosure, and that's going to be our third video. Okay, so far, hopefully you're keeping up and you got some good stuff. Thanks for watching. Make sure you save.